Hey, it is Laoshi Lawrence McElroy here again for Water Tiger School for our Water Tiger for Sachem series, which is now pre-recorded, but this is the session for Monday, December 21st. Can you believe we started these all the way back on March 23rd? And this is our 37th. Holy smokes. There's only one more left in 2020. Who'd have thunk it? So anyway, so here we are. We had a lot of different things sort of lined up in queue. Actually, we're sort of excited for what we originally had planned today, and then sort of realized, hey, for most, this is a holiday week, and I'm sure there's nothing going on in your life that's raising, stress levels. So we decided to switch gears and do something different. Not really different, but as a matter of fact, it's one of the things we've returned to often when we thought it was time to release a little stress, and that is the Crane Frolics. So since we began these sessions back in March, we have done 3 of the 5 Crane Frolics. On May 12th for West Babylon, while we were doing Facebook Live sessions for them, we introduced folks to crane walking. And then as recently as October 12th, we did crane walking on one leg, and the week of Thanksgiving, we did crane flying. So October 12th was crane walking on one leg, and November 23rd was crane flying. They're all available, either in the Facebook archive or the West Babylon one is also on the YouTube channel at this point, as is the one from November 23rd, because we had already sort of migrated to doing things pre-recorded by that time. So anyway, so there you go. Today will be crane gliding. It's going to look different than the other cranes. Breath pattern is going to be a little bit different, that sort of thing. But as always with the animal frolics, this is one of the redundancies that we have been doing in this series. Try to keep things different, haven't repeated any content, any focus content yet. Most of the warm-ups have also been done only once, sometimes different versions of different things. But when we do the animal frolics, we do advance and retreat from the 9 temple exercises. So that will be our warm-up today as well. Now with crane gliding, the knees aren't quite in such a not dangerous, that's the wrong word, but risky position as they are in most of the other frolics. So, we'll address that when we get to it. But anyway, so there's that. There's really, at this point, what the news is out there. You know what it is like out there. We need to mask up. We need to stay home and celebrate with only those in our direct household through the end of the year. Or, the state of New York, where Water Tiger is based, where I live, we're going to have another shutdown in a few weeks. And that won't be good for anybody. So it's not that big a deal to stay at home when you absolutely can, to celebrate with those in your household, and to wear a mask and socially distance or physically distance when you're outside, please. Because we got to put a stop to this. But anyway, so there's that. Yes, Sachem is still not, there. Of course, no libraries are doing anything in person because they can. But Sachem is offering some programs, but are sort of limited. Some other libraries do offer, various exercise classes remotely. It's all up to the, what each library determines is best for them and their view of what's best for their patrons. So anyway, so there's where that is. And I think that's it. And we'll just get going and see what we got. So I think I mentioned probably last week we're doing the Shaolin Qina, not Shaolin Qina, sorry, the Qigong based hand exercises that I'm just moving a little bit here. That, you know, our studio is my training space in the basement of my townhouse, and it is unheated. The townhouse is heated, and there's nice insulation between, you know, the downstairs and the upstairs. But whenever it starts to get cold outside, it's kind of brisk down here. So I'm going to wait until I get moving a little bit before I take off my sweatshirt and do the big t-shirt reveal. That's something else that we try to keep different all the time. So remember with advance and retreat, you know, I mentioned the last time we did this with Crane flying, but I don't talk about the health benefits of advance and retreat as much as I do, focusing on how it really brings our attention to our knees, which is pretty much, pun intended, needed when we do the animal frolics. But advance and retreat sort of opens up the both the front and the back of the lower abdominal cavity, so it activates the Xia Dan Tian, the Ming Men, the Shen Yu, the Essence Door, and that sort of thing. Organs that are benefited includes the kidneys, the liver, the spleen, the pancreas, the gallbladder, and both the ascending and descending colons. It works the legs, it works the abdominals, it works the ankles, and, you know, like I pointed out, it really brings attention to the knees. So I got to moving a little bit, so I'm going to take off my sweatshirt. I'm sort of warm. And here is the t-shirt. It is an Old World Tai Chi Day t-shirt. It's actually the one from '08. I can't remember. I think when I talked about it last week, I said that I like have 15. I think I have 15. There are only 2 left that you haven't seen. And I tended to wear them on days that we're focusing on Qigong. So anyway, feet should be parallel. They can be wider than shoulder wide. The original instructions have this exercise at shoulder width, but I actually like it a little bit wider. Remember, when I want to focus, knees and toes stay the same direction. Even though I'm shifting weight, turning the upper body, I want to make sure that I'm turning the upper body in such a way that I don't push that knee out away from the front position. So to do that, you sort of have to feel your way through. I really suggest, you know, settling into the leg. I go to the left first, just FYI. So I've got my weight settled in my left foot. My right foot is still grounded. It just doesn't have much weight. And I don't want to go too far because, again, that's going to push the knee sideways. So I have to judge that distance. And then I start to turn above the hips, not the hips, because you start turning at the hips and you see what's happening to that knee. It's being turned out. So I turn above the hips and I get to my range of motion in that lower band. And then that's going to start moving the hips, so I stop. And I move up a little bit more and I see what kind of flexibility I have in the mid band. And then it starts to get to its range of motion, pulling the lower band, which then pulls the hips. So then I get to my upper band and do the same thing until I find that chain link reaction down to the hips. And then I do whatever is left with my neck, head, and peripheral vision. And that's what gets you to that position where you know that you're safe and not tweaking the knees. Sometimes you can adjust the width. For some people, wider is better for their knees. For some people, a little bit more narrow. But just be careful in both positions and, you know, determine what's right for you and the current state of your knees. We're going to do retreat first. I'll talk about a breath pattern. The image, of course, in retreat, something is coming toward you and you're moving away, giving it space. Becoming yin to something's yang. And advance reverses that. You become yang to something's yin. You're moving into space that has been opened up. And remember, another thing, another layer of this exercise is that we get to explore how while we retreat, there is still advance, and how when we advance, there is still retreat. So again, my feet's going beyond shoulder width, just a little bit, knees forward, toes forward, that's important. I'm going to shift the weight. I'm going to my left first. I'll just talk about opposite sides, or do my best just to talk about opposite sides. I'm going to turn into that position. I'm going to look in the direction that force, that energy, that thing is coming toward me. I'm just going to let my arms hang. That's my preferred way of doing this exercise. I'm going to push off on that left foot to fill the right, maybe on an inhalation. I'm going to hold the weight in that right foot or the second foot, and I'm going to turn and look to the opposite wall. Now something's coming at me from that side, so I push off on that foot to fill its opposite, still looking in that direction, and then I turn. So two distinct movements. Shift, maybe on an inhale. Turn, maybe on an exhale. Shift while looking at what's expanding toward me. Inhale on the turn. Shift and turn. Breathe when you have to. Shift, if focusing on the breath, and turn. Focusing on the image, shift and turn. Distract you from protecting your knees. Shift and turn. Shift and turn. Shift. Seek to maintain crown point of the head over the base of the pelvic bowl. So I'm not leaning back. I'm not leaning forward. And turn. I'm not counting repetitions here. Shift and turn. Just going to go for a while this morning. Shift and turn. Shift and turn. We usually count pairs. Shift and turn. Shift and turn. This is an exercise. Shift and turn that usually does have sort of a stated shift and turn. Number of shift and turn repetitions. I feel like just two more pairs. Shift and turn. Shift and turn. Shift and turn. Shift. We're going to hold here for a moment. I'm going to finish what I was saying. It usually does have a set number of repetitions, but this is also an exercise that sometimes I just go until I feel like it's done what I want it to do. So it's never one that I like do 3 pairs and go, yeah, I'm done. So sometimes it just takes a little bit more than, say, 6 pairs, 12 pairs, that sort of count. So now we're going to advance. So that means I'm going to look not in the direction from where I'm going, but in the direction I'm going. Something is retreating. Something is compressing away from me. Something is giving me space. I'm moving into that space. So maybe now I reverse the breath pattern. But now I push off on that weighted foot to fill its opposite, but I'm moving and watching and looking in the direction I am moving. And maybe it's an exhale. So shift, maybe on an exhale. Turn now, maybe on an inhale. Shift and turn. Remember, it's not this. I'm not turning as I'm shifting. I'm getting the shift completed in both retreat and advance. And then the turn is a separate action. Shift and turn. 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 Maybe an exhalation and turn on maybe an inhalation. Shift and turn. Shift and turn. Shift and turn. Shift and turn. I didn't talk about in retreat. Shift and turn, about finding advance. Shift and turn. Shift and turn. Shift, and I think we only have about 2 more pairs here, so shift and turn. Shift and turn. Shift and turn. Last shift, last turn forward. So really, finding advance and retreat and advance is relatively easy, because when I am retreating, for instance, If I'm in the left foot, my right shoulder is advancing as I'm retreating. Plus, as I'm pushing the weights into the back leg is compressing, but the front leg is extending. It is moving forward. The right hip is moving forward with the right shoulder. The left hip is moving backwards with the left hip. So there is advance and retreat and advance. It's the easiest way to understand that, and just here, same thing, right? My left shoulder and not really hip, but the left side of my torso is in a retreat position as I'm moving forward. My right shoulder and right side of my torso really in an advancing position. Plus, as I'm filling this foot, as I am advancing into this foot, the back leg is pressing down and back, so it is retreating. So anyway, there you go. Advance and retreat, focusing on the knees. Because in our normal walk, we're going 45, 45, and we will still be doing that, but in a little bit different style that doesn't create the same pressure on the knee. But you still want to be mindful of your knees in crane gliding. All the previous aspects of the crane, so if you've seen any of the crane, if you've participated in any of our video workshops since March 23rd on the Crane Frolics, you know, or any of the frolics for that matter, you know each frolic, each animal of the 5 that we have in Water Tiger School's approach to the animal frolics. We have crane, monkey, tiger, bear, and deer. Each frolic has its primary therapeutic quality. Then we need to embrace the nature and the spirit of the animal. It has its own, they have their own chi focus. They have their own physical components, sort of the physical, can't think of the word that I usually use, physical approach that'll work, has their different breaths, so many of the breaths are similar. And I think that's about it. Yeah. So anyway, the therapeutic quality of the crane and why we choose this, why we chose doing the crane the week of Thanksgiving, why we're doing this the week of the beginning of the end of the year. I almost said the end of the world. The end of the year, holidays, is because yes, you know, the stress levels can tend to rise, especially at this point in 2020. And the crane is good for various mental issues and focus and mental relaxation and that sort of thing. A lot of people find the crane very calming. So that's why it's been our go-to. But primary therapeutic quality, it's really part of the primary therapeutic quality, but the one that's always listed first is heart health and heart energy. You might be interested in knowing that, you know, traditional Chinese medicine ties a healthy heart to healthy emotional balance. So there's the therapeutic quality. The nature of the crane is grace and elegance. If you haven't been with me for the crane, oh my God, I'm panicking because I am not graceful. I am not. I am not elegant. It's okay, right? Cranes are going to have bad days too, but we want to approach the movement. We want to approach the frolic with a sense of feeling, an idea, an energy of grace and elegance. And you know, if the crane falls over, the crane falls over. However, cranes tend not to fall over, so if you become the crane, you will become graceful and elegant. You know, think of the way you feel if you're in the 24 and you're doing crane spreads its wings, you know, or you know the breathing set and you're doing white crane cools her wings. That sense of those wings opening, that's what you want to keep in mind. I see, you know, as we do those types of activities, people who don't seem to be graceful at other points in you know, their physical movement become graceful in those physical movements. So it's definitely a possibility. Anyway, I'm going to move on. The spirit of the crane is light and peaceful, as if soaring through the clouds. So I really feel this is the one that embraces that spirit of the crane gliding. It's also one of the reasons that I sometimes call this crane soaring instead of crane gliding. But it is crane gliding. So those get us to the physical aspect, the physical approach, the movement approach is there should be no strain, no force. It should be like the spirit of the crane, light and peaceful, no tense muscles, everything open, relaxed, rounded. And the chi focus is a little complicated, but not too much. It does change from crane frolic to crane frolic in different ways. There is a through thread in all of the crane frolics, and that's on the inhalation. There's a sense of the qi rising from the Xia dantian in the lower abdominal cavity to the zhang dantian in the mid torso. Now, the acupuncture points for both of those are, of course, on the surface of the skin, but the actual vessels are in alignment between the crown point of the head and the base of the pelvic bowl in those areas, the lower abdominal cavity and sort of the solar plexus region of the mid-torso. So on the inhalation, the physical inhalation, the qi rises. On the physical exhalation, it sinks. Oh, the breath, that's the one that I forgot. And the secondary qi focus is in the physical position. So we'll address that when we introduce the physical position. It's basically going to be on this side of both wings. So what we normally refer to at other times as the inside of the arms. So you have the underside of the wrist, the underside of the forearm, the inside of the elbow fold, the top of the biceps and area. Boom. That is where it is. But it's doing different things in the two wings. And then also in one leg, the leg that's going to be supporting you, the qi is expanding down the leg, adding to the structure to help hold you up, while the other is in the back of the leg, sort of like the underside of the arm to help extend it up and out. So I guess I didn't wait until we did the physical. But anyway, the breath with the crane is always a soft, maybe you might refer to it as a yin inhalation in through the nose, and the exhalation usually described as the sound of the wind, but I like to think of it more as a breeze. So you're pursing your lips and blowing out. The other two aspects of breath and movement are that there are pauses. So you exhale, hold the movement, hold the breath. You inhale while you're moving, then hold the movement, hold the breath, which is different in two different ways. One, we're stopping, which we don't do in our Tai Chi. And two, we're making sound. Normally our breath in our Tai Chi and the rest of our Qigong is a quiet breath. The only time that we talk about, it's okay to hear your breath, is when we're doing a different modality, except for this. All the animal frolics have various degrees of sort of a more active, sound-rich kind of breathing. The odd thing with the crane is that it reverses what the normal breath pattern is, or what you would think it is based on previous movements. Because normally, like say with crane walking, you're inhaling into that sort of active position, and you're exhaling to sort of return home. And this reverses that pattern. As I'm stepping into the active position, I'm exhaling. As I'm coming back to home, I am inhaling. And there you go. I think that's it. So let's get into the physical. We'll do a pass, maybe two of these, and we'll call it a morning. We are still doing 45 to 45. So there is that initial moment when you step that you will have to pay attention to that knee. But we're not in that position very, very long because it is a step and an extension. So something to keep in mind. And FYI, I can't do the animal frolics without mentioning that, when I've introduced these at different open events, say back in the day when we were doing Tai Chi in the park, or back in the day, days of World Tai Chi Day, chances are, just FYI, It ain't going to happen again in 2021. I mean, we got some time between now and the end of April. So it is a possibility, but I wouldn't get your hopes up. We will probably, regardless, be reaching out to our facilitators and see what they think of doing a virtual event of some sort. So anyway, so there you go. But anyway, at World Tai Chi Day events and other outdoor events, some people, I'll introduce some aspect of the frolics, and inevitably somebody in the group will say, well, what kind of Tai Chi is this? It's like, it's not Tai Chi, it's Qigong. But I'm moving. Yeah, there is moving Qigong. Oh, but it's very Tai Chi-like. It's like, well, yeah, but no, it's Qigong. So anyway, a little shake. So just FYI, that movement, I'm at the 45. By the way, it's the same ready position as crane walking. It's sort of in toward yourself. Chest is sunk, back is rounded, crown point of the head is over the heaven, is up to the heavens. Boom. So that's the ready position to which you return in crane walking. We expand like this and sort of stretch the wings. Here, we're going to step out. The weighted leg, that wing is up, palm up. The other wing behind is palm down. And ideally, I'm going to hold this for a moment, hopefully. I don't know where my balance is this morning. Notice a little toe point here. Boom. And that's the in position. If you need to, set those toes down and even a little bit into the ball of the foot so you don't fall over. Prefer toes. I mean, obviously we prefer the foot in the air. But if you need just that little reassurance that the toes are on the floor, just feel that lift in the leg, even though the toes are down. And then from that extension, everything comes in. That's the inhalation. So this is the exhalation. Hold the breath, hold the position, and then inhale. And then exhale. And then inhale. There's a tendency for me, my challenge here, is to really extend the exhalation and just go straight to the inhalation without a hold in both the breath and the position. There's a weird structure going on here because my crown point of my head is not in alignment with the ball of my foot. I'm going to take one more step. We'll introduce, or for some, review our Animal Frolics closing. Bringing everything back in after that last hold. Returning to that position. Now we're walking forward, so I'm going to turn on the balls of the feet forward, palms up, coming fingertip to fingertip, and I'll do this again, more on camera, down. And the hands come to the Shia Dantian. So that closing movement, if you know the Tai Chi Qigong breathing set from Water Tiger, is very much like Pour Chi through the Bok Way. You come into that last step, return, turn in the direction you're walking, palms up, palms down, and return home. So that's the closing, a little bit different than what we do in Tai Chi, but still sort of similar to other things that we do. As always, what I want to mention when we're doing the Animal Frolics is our approach, Water Tiger School's approach to the Five Animal Frolics, is actually a circular walk. So when we do this in a group class, like the studio class, Qigong class for Water Tiger School, we still introduce and do a deep drill into each of the frolics in a linear fashion because it's easier to learn walking in a linear fashion. You get a better, you always have a view of the instructor, that sort of thing. In a circle, if you were the person in front of the instructor, you're never going to see the instructor. So you want people to get familiar with what it is you're doing before you put them in a circle walk. And I think I've mentioned this before. You know, someday when I do the animal frolics, I should, actually, I think they're down here. Hang on. I'm not going very far. Don't freak out. What we do, so people don't have to think about where the circle is we set up little plush animals to mark, yes, I have penguins. There are no penguin frolics. I have a tiger that roars. We mark 4 points around. I have a lot of tigers. Everybody always gives me, where I have a flamingo, right? 4 points around the circle and then 1 in the center. Here's a monkey. Boom. So we can mark a circle and walk around them. So anyway, where was I? Oh, I was talking about the circle. You know, I also, in the townhouse, we have a round dining room table, so when I'm practicing the frolics, usually that's what I do. I clear a little space around the table and then just walk around the table. But, you know, just sort of view a circle and create a circle. You don't actually, you know, especially if you're doing animal frolics alone. But animal frolics are really fun to do in a circle. One of the things you have to consider then is your sense of community in the circle walk, because, you know, you can't run over the person in front of you, and you can't be moving so slowly that you're backing up traffic behind you. So you have to make adjustments to the way that you're playing so you can keep the spacing around the circle, especially these days because you need 6 feet apart. So, crane gliding. Setting in, getting in touch with my inner crane. Remember all these details we talk about. Therapeutic quality is just something you want to sort of just keep in mind, but the spirit and the nature of the animal, grace and elegance is the nature. Light and peaceful, like soaring through the clouds, is the spirit. The movement focus, the chi focus, the breath focus are all considered Buddhist aspects of the frolic. The Taoist aspect of the frolic is to actually become the animal. It is not, you know, like the Stanislavski acting method, which is, what would I do if I were the character in these given circumstances? It's not, what would I do if I were a crane in these given circumstances? You are the crane. So that ready position, sort of fingertips rolling in toward one another, palms angled upward at about the center line. Start with an inhalation. Step. Hold breath, hold movement. And inhale, soft in through the nose. And pause, both breath and movement. And ideally, the exhale is actually done as you reach your physical position. And the inhale is actually done as you get back home. So you step, exhaling, 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 holding, 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 inhaling, 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 holding, holding, holding. About 2 more. About the time my head. Actually, 3 more. because I started with a glide to the left. So I want to finish with a glide to the right. Coming in, hopefully more graceful than I just did. Palms up, turning into the line I've been walking, palms down, and a little rebound. And there you go. That, my friends, is crane gliding. I mentioned during the previous pass, not this one, that it's a little bit different structure. So the idea here, it's a little bit like, we sometimes talk about this when we're introducing things like Repulse the Monkey in the 24, how, you know, there are various structural variations here that, you know, may not be quite the type of alignment and body position we're accustomed to in other aspects of our Tai Chi. But here especially, you know, I'm in this position. So I'm using the various extensions and their location. If I get that hand in the wrong position, if it's too low, if it's too high, I'm going to end up with balance issues. So I'm really sensing the structure, like those yoga poses that, you know, you go through YouTube and you see these people in all these bizarre physical positions with just one hand on the ground, you know, but they're, you know, the other hand is, you know, out in this direction, one foot is there, the other foot and leg is there. It's like, how do they do that? They just feel where through their structure, this knee is of course open, where their balance is. And that's what you want here. And it might be different on the right than it is on the left. So there you go. Crane gliding from the Five Animal Frolics. One thing I didn't mention up front, you know, we just got through a winter storm Gale, and she had quite a gale, so I thought the name was appropriate. But anyway, so I hope you all were safe and unchallenged by that particular little snow dump in the Atlantic Northeast. And you're staying warm. And you're going to stay safe and healthy through the holidays. We will have one more of these before the end of the year. So a week from today would make it, what, the 28th? So one more for 2020. We'll see what 2021 brings. And what are future installments of Water Tiger for Sachem, and of course the greater community. I didn't say that up front either, so bad me. So my usual greeting this time of year is Merry Jingle Bells. But whatever holidays you celebrate, or even if you don't celebrate any holidays, still want you to be happy, still want you to be merry, and still want you to be healthy. So there you go. For now, until next time, it's Laoshi Lawrence McElroy for Water Tiger School of Tai Chi Chuan, signing off.